Hello and welcome to the next part of our series on how to find your leadership style. Today, we're looking at the task you're trying to accomplish with your team and the organization or the circumstance in which you're trying to do that, because that is one of the 5 elements of your leadership style. So just to wrap up quickly, in the introductory video, I was outlining for you how we have 5 elements of finding your leadership style. Obviously, you as your personality and you as a person, what you're bringing into the table in terms of your strengths, your personality, your values, that is one major factor, and we want you anchored in that. But then we also have like your individual team members with their personality, with their current competency level, with their motivation, as we were looking at in the last video. We have the team dynamics as a group, and depending on where they all fall in skill-will matrix or where they fall in terms of their interaction dynamics, you will have to adapt to make sure that you can leverage their performance and guide them to their highest performance. Then we have the task you're trying to accomplish, because that will be different for an operational department or a project, and it will be different whether you're in a research mode versus you're going to whether you're having to deliver something like a software implementation or delivering a shipment to a client for a product. And then we have the organization, or what you might call the circumstance or the culture in which you're moving. So those are the 5 elements, and we combined the people part, the team, into one video, and I think we're going to do the same with the task and environment. So this is the one that we're looking and diving into today. My name is Angelika. If we haven't met yet, I'm a leadership coach. I'm a social psychologist, holistic healer, and I've been leading IT projects for more than 15 years, running global software rollouts, and now I'm coaching leaders and their teams through personal and organizational transformation, helping the leaders to be the best leaders they can be and to leverage the performance from their teams and teams of teams, and helping the teams to find themselves, be self-organized, be self-confident, collaborate well with other teams so that the whole organization can actually grow. If this is interesting, I'd love for you to sign up and subscribe and like this video. And without further ado, let's just dive right into how your leadership style is influenced, or could be influenced, maybe should be influenced, by the task you're trying to accomplish with your team. You're probably more familiar already with the second element, which is the organizational culture or the organizational circumstance. So maybe we can do that real quick before we head into the task. You will lead differently whether you're working in a bank that has 15 layers of hierarchy, and where it's got these clear rules as to who is allowed to talk to whom and who needs to talk to which hierarchy level before you can actually access them, and that kind of thing. There's different rules of the game, and there will also be a different way of acceptance or a different tolerance for the flourish or the passion that you will bring to how you creatively lead your team. You will potentially run into obstacles or skepticism when you start integrating more open space forums, or when you integrate more people into creating plans together, for example, because the expectation is typically a different one. There may be a bigger emphasis on traditions and how we do things here, versus when you're working in a startup or a young company, or a company that is working on agile principles, where collaboration is much more free-floating, where people are used to being eye to eye in terms of hierarchy level, where it's totally okay to walk into an open door, which you probably wouldn't dare walking up to the CEO of the bank if you're a team manager 5 or 7 levels down. And you will have a different environment in which you operate with your team, depending on the type of organization that you're working in. That is to a certain extent something that you were clear on and that you knew before you actually entered that organization. But sometimes we also learn as we grow inside that organization how to adapt and what unwritten rules or cultural norms are actually at play inside the organization that we're working in. So that will inform some of your choices and a bit of your style. And also the external partners that you're working with, say your clients or your vendors, depending on what type of organization or team you're leading. If you're working in an accounting department running finance, you may deal with banks, you may deal with software providers, you may deal with freelancers and temp agencies for people who will do your accounting and support 1 or 2 tasks. And if you're running a marketing department, you may be dealing with agencies and creative directors, and you may deal with event organizers and what have you. So depending on who you're working with and the type of organizations that you're working with and how integrated you work with these organizations, say you're in IT and you have an implementation partners like an outsourced entity that will help you and work alongside your own internal IT department on large-scale software projects, then there is a long-standing, hopefully, good partnership. And that means that there is also an integration and standard processes of who to involve and how to work together, versus if you're not working with a kind of a standard implementation partner, you may have to deal with a change of providers every now and then, maybe with every single project, which leads to a totally different dynamic. And you need to be a bit more on your feet when it comes to being adaptable and flexible with providing your team with clear guidance and, again, new structures every new project in this example. So organizational context plays a role, and it will inform the emphasis for your leadership style. You may have to provide way more structure in that second example, even though you may not naturally prefer to do that, simply because you're dealing with a very dynamic environment. Or it may be the total opposite. So just to bring it back to finding your leadership style, some of the elements that are your natural preference, you may be triggered outside of your comfort zone simply by means of being in a certain environment, tasked with a certain project or a certain deliverable as part of your operational role. Looking at tasks, I already shared this example with you earlier, that the type of task you and your team are supposed to create will also challenge you to be adaptable in your leadership style. You may wonder why. Let me give you an example, or maybe 2. Example, an IT team. I shared that I've run IT teams for more than 15 years in different capacities. And in one scenario, there was this software provider, and the development team had been in a research project creating a new tool, explorational, in close relationship with the potential clients, with stakeholders, very much exploratory, no time pressure, and everyone working towards creating the best possible fit for the client organizations. Brilliant. And then someone actually placed an order. And from basically one day to the next, while people were in this, let's make this great and let's make sure that we have everything covered, and we're not there yet. We don't even have all the settings ready, or we're not even clear on some of the structural elements for kind of legal stuff like data protection or hosting or whatever. We need to figure that out later. And from one day to the next, this team had to go into, whoa, we've got a client order and it's huge and it's massive. And this is a young company. Now we need to deliver, and we need to make sure that we deliver this on time with all the functionality, with all the extra kind of framework of rules, regulations, and being super clear on how the client would also then operate this whole thing. So that is a drastic shift from leading this team in the exploratory stage versus suddenly being responsible to make sure that people are making a deadline, that people are not making just the overall potential client and their stakeholders who are working closely during creation with them happy, but also making this whole thing, kind of putting it on solid feet in every respect so that it can be operated. So I hope you can see how being the leader in this scenario will differ from being the leader in this scenario. And depending on your personal preference, you may feel much more at ease in the exploratory stage, or you may feel much more at home in making sure that people deliver on time, on budget, in scope, and having this more structured thing with a timeline, and making sure that things are actually properly framed. We all bring our natural preference to the table, but depending on what the task is that we have to deliver, we need to adapt, because as a leader, it is your job to make sure that the team in your charge will actually deliver the result that you're tasked to do. And that can differ from also operational departments, where when you enter as the leader, typically, unless you're in a startup, but typically the team is already in place. They have a history together. If you're entering an accounting department on the first of the month and you've just been hired as the new finance manager, then operations are already in place. And the same goes for a sales department or a marketing department or logistics or warehouse. Things are already in motion. They may not be working well. You may have a super large task of optimizing things, fair, but things and people are already in place. Whereas if you start in a project or in a startup, things may not be in place. In a project, it's not a rare occasion that the team learns like a moment, a day, a week before you start as their project leader, that they are informed that they will actually be on that project team. And not everyone volunteers. So you start on a blank slate in a way with your team. You need to create a team out of these people. You need to create certain structures and operations and procedures, even though you may be operating in the larger context of an organization that is doing projects all the time. And the more mature that project organization is, the more tools are already in place and the more people are already kind of in the habit, but not always. So your leadership style and your leadership challenge will be different depending on whether you're working with something that's already in place that you may have to change, optimize, restructure, or whether you're creating something completely new. And that is the fifth element, if you will, if we count it right, to how you find your leadership style. So I hope you can see that finding your leadership style is on the one hand, super important, and that it needs to be anchored in who you are, that you need to understand and be aware of what makes you you, and be confident and anchored in your personal style, values, and preferences. And then be flexible and adaptable to who you're dealing with on an individual level, your one-to-one with the team members, and your team group as a whole. We haven't even touched on stakeholders. Let's leave something for later. So who you're dealing with, and also the type of thing, result, deliverable that you're producing with your team, and the organizational context, whether that's internal inside your own organization or with your business partners like clients and vendors. So this concludes our little series on how to find your leadership style. If you're super intrigued, I'd love for you to like this video and subscribe for more content on leadership and transformation and how to be your best leader. Did I say be your own best leader? Yeah, in a way that's true. I want you to be the best leader you can be. And remember, you don't have to be someone else. There's 8 billion ways of being a great leader. You just have to find yours. So see you next time. Have a great day and bye.